Hello, everyone. I am Julie Ann McCurris, formerly known as Julie Ann Meyer, and welcome to the show, everyone. For those of you who don't know, I recently got married, hence the name change, and we're going to slowly roll into that. I think that that's the oddest thing for me is calling myself something different after 45 years. So that's the biggest change to married life for me, but it's a good one and I'm happy to do it. It just honors our commitment to each other. And I guess I'm a little old fashioned that way. But anyway, our guest today, I'm so excited to finally have her on the show. We were supposed to have her on a while back, but for those of you who don't remember, I was in a really serious car accident and had to pull back from all of my activities. At least for a couple days. Anyway, let's bring her onto the show. Sue Schultz, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So glad to have you here. Yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate your patience and understanding with me being a little discombobulated after that accident. It was disturbing. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We are here to learn more about you and what you do and how you change the world and how you perceive the world, all that fun stuff. So let's start off with a really simple question. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a career/life coach for mostly women, helping them navigate their barriers and what holds them back, and then building what they want and going after it. And I am recently married 2 years ago, also living in Tennessee in our dream house on a lake, and originally from Chicago.
Oh, wow. So you got some new stuff too. Yay.
Yep. Everybody should drive towards their future.
I like that. Why not? I don't really understand why people are so afraid of change because it constantly happens whether or not we are a part of it consciously.
Mm-hmm.
So we might as well make as much change as we can for ourselves in a positive direction. At least that's my philosophy.
I agree. Totally agree.
But anyway, you mentioned this word barriers, and I just want to jump right in. You and I were talking before the show started about barriers, and I just, it's hard to see something that you can't see if it's so ingrained in you. So I'm curious what barriers, let's start with basics, what barriers means to you.
Barriers are our limiting beliefs or stories that we've been telling ourselves for a very long time. And psychologically, they all start at age 5 or 6, unfortunately. Oh, wow. And what happens is we experience something, and then we make an assumption, and then we store that in our subconscious brain until something else happens, and then we keep storing it in there. And then I like to say we get tentacles added onto there, which are more barriers because it just builds, right? So for instance, a little girl, someone might tell her that her hair is messy, but in her mind, she assumes you think she's ugly. She stores it, right? Later, a couple years later, maybe someone said that dress doesn't look good on you or whatever, and she adds it to it. But that then brings the tentacles of self-confidence, overweightness, maybe, scarcity, not being worthy, all of those things, right? So those are what I call tentacles. By age 13 or 14, our barriers are fully developed. Our stories are fully developed. Usually the stories, limiting beliefs that we've created are not true, right? Because the little girl, no one said she was ugly. Like, no one said that, but she decided that. Mm-hmm. So it's fully developed by 13 or 14. When it's fully developed, it stays with us for life. It never goes away. So it'll rear its ugly head every once in a while in life or career, and we don't realize it. And it's a lot of negative self-talk that goes on unconsciously all day long, 724, 365. We don't even realize it. And so it gets in our way, and we get to find tools to work with them. So barriers are our stories that we created as a child, as an adolescent, and as an adult.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I think about a lesson I learned fairly early in life, and I was in high school, and it was prom, and I was going to high school prom with my high school sweetheart, and I was so in love with him. And I mean, they called us Barbie and Ken. I mean, even years after we broke up, people would still ask me about him like we were still together because they just assumed that we were going to be married and all of that. So it was one of those kinds of relationships. But he obviously, well, not obviously, but he adored me, and I didn't see it. And I remember going to prom, and we were at his house, and he'd had knee surgery because he was a professional skier. And he managed to get off crutches for the night because that was his goal. So we went through all this thing. And anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, he doesn't even think I look pretty. And I made up this whole story in my head about how he didn't think that I looked pretty. Meanwhile, my dad's videotaping this whole interaction. And I spent the whole night upset thinking my boyfriend did not find me attractive. And I watched the video like a year or two later, and all I could see was adoration on his face. Again, I thought, oh my gosh, I wasted my time.
Mhm. That's right.
It wasn't even real.
Our barriers, limiting beliefs, or stories, whatever people want to call them, are usually false truths.
Yeah, exactly. Or they don't serve us. I mean,
They don't serve us.
yeah, what do we gain from it? What do we gain from it if it's even if it is true, unless we can change or transmute something like that? But is there a way, so you said that barriers don't go away, but is there a way to actually see them or become more aware of them?
So, what I like to do is go to the past, and I like people to tell their timeline of their story so we can see how life and career are mirror images of each other and those barriers developed. How did they develop over time? And then once they can see them, because you can see them. If you think you're not pretty, you can see where it came from. If you think you aren't worthy of love, you can start seeing where it came from. You
Hmm.
can then, I like to say, the barriers are in the front seat when people are stuck. When they come to me, they're usually stuck. So they are in the barriers are driving the car, and they're in the back seat in this comfort zone that they only know what they've created. It's once they learn what their barriers are, some of them, because we don't have time to do all of them, but once they do that, we start to give them tools to make the barriers their best friends instead of their enemies, because they're using them as a negative thing, and we make it a positive thing. We put you in the front seat and the barriers in the back seat, because they're not going away. They're like little kids. They're going to bounce up and down back there, and they're going to want to try to get in the front seat of that car. But with your tools, you can say, hey, self confidence, I've got this today. Get in the back seat. I'm really okay. Right. And you can drive where you want to go.
Yeah.
So I like to put them in the driver's seat first before we build out career life.
I like that idea too. Just even kind of like making friends with it, realizing it's like that voice in our head, that critical voice that's always yipping and yapping and saying all sorts of things. It's like it doesn't go away, but it doesn't mean we have to continue to believe everything that it says.
That's right. That's right. So I have them name their barrier something that means something to them. It could be a famous person. It could be someone that they have in the family. So if they're a people pleaser, maybe it's someone who is not a people pleaser, right? And they can start identifying them as a friend instead of as their enemy, because negative self talk doesn't get us where we want to go. It just
No,
doesn't. It hinders us.
it definitely does hinder us. And, there's that old saying about how, at least for beginners, when they're like, I don't have that internal voice, it's like, what do you think that was?
That's right. That's right. Yep. Yep. So we once we start out our day like that, let's say we put on an outfit and we're like leaving the house and we're like, oh, you look terrible. Well, we started on a negative. Sometimes we even start as early as when we get up and we say, I didn't get enough sleep. So not enough is a negative, right?
Exactly.
And so you continue it through your whole day at work and at home and all of it, and you don't even know it because it just happens. So it's really becoming aware of what you're saying to yourself, because in my book, Julie should be her very best friend. I should be my best friend, and my clients should have that too. So if you're your best friend, you're not going to speak negatively to yourself.
No, it makes me think of my friend Sue Ann, who I adore, and she's going through some health issues, and so she's been really kind of mean to herself and talking to herself poorly. And another mutual friend said to her, "Listen, I don't let anybody talk about my friends like that. So you need to her about her."
Yes, I love her. I love her because that's really the truth, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't allow someone to talk to our friend that way, so we got to stop ourselves from talking about ourselves that way.
Yeah. I thought that was brilliant because she basically stopped after that. So
Yep, because now she's thinking, oh, she's right.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me too how when, at least for me, and I think that this is a fairly normal experience, when I start noticing myself having these negative conversations or thoughts about myself, then and I'm trying to catch it, then I can hear that the voice pipe up and say, "Look, you're doing it again. Can't you catch it?"
Yep. It's
That is
hard to learn to catch it. That's the hard part.
It is, but it does get easier, the more you practice it. It's kind of like an onion. I always, when I'm coaching anybody, I always use the philosophy of crawl, walk, run. You don't expect to run the second you come out of the womb. So why are you expecting to do that with yourself?
That's right. Why? I don't,
Yeah.
like a lot of people, and they don't realize it. So it's all holding them back, right? Because even in career, they might say, I can't have that job because I'm not worthy of it. Or I don't know that one thing. Or my boss will never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, right? So all day long, that's all they're doing. So how can you move forward if you don't know you're doing
That's
it?
the question. How can you? So you help people to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Hold on a second. I want to pop that up as well so people can get an idea of where to find out more about you as we're chatting. But barriers are such an interesting thing because I like, as I mentioned before, I like this idea of making it more of a friend so you can see it and it just sort of changes the relationship. It's almost like saying, there's this idea of surrender. I used to hate that word so much, the idea of surrender. And then when I was able to reframe it as being okay with what is right at this particular moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Trying to fight what's actually happening at this particular moment. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. But
Can't change it overnight.
Yeah. So what do you so people who come to you, they're typically already in the stuck mode, or how does that work?
Typically they're in a stuck mode, or they're having trouble. They don't know they're stuck. They're having trouble finding a job per se. What I do first is work on them. So that's the barrier, the driver driving their car. And I teach them also to start filling their own emotional bank. So because especially in women, I don't want to say men are that way, but especially in women, we tend to do everything for everyone first. And even if we're on the list of things to do that day, exercise or go for a walk or meditate or something, if something happens, we will push that so far down that it doesn't get done. right? To a point where we're running on empty. So we're not only having negative self-talk, but we're running on empty. And so we don't really understand that, yes, sleep has a lot to do with it, but it's also filling your emotional bank and putting yourself first. So when you're on an airplane, they tell you to take care of yourself before someone else, should there be a problem. We need to do that all the time. And really what a lot of people learn is that, oh my God, it's not selfish, because they think it's selfish. It's not selfish. But the people around me think I'm giving them more time when I'm really giving them the same, but I have more capacity. So teach them to fill their emotional bank. Then what do they need?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And when we expect others to do that for us, then we're not even in control of ourselves or our lives. But, I was thinking too about how it took me a long time to figure this out. I would get tired, and then I would say, sit down and watch Netflix or something, and then spend the whole day maybe binge watching some series or something, and then be just as tired, if not more, at the end of the day. And it took me a really long time to figure out, maybe it's because I'm not physically tired, but my emotional needs, I need to start taking care of that. And watching TV is still not taking care of
it. It's not it, right?
Yeah.
And even if we don't have money, we can fill our emotional bank. So people think they can't do that without money, but they can. They just have to find different ways. And once they find out about their barriers and their emotional bank, they can actually figure out what it is they want, right? Either in career or life. They can, because they have a clearer mind of who they are and what is important.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, we do need to go to a commercial break, but I'm so excited about this conversation. So we're going to pick it up where we, after we come back from this. All right, hold on one sec. For those of you who are watching us live, hold on for just a minute. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about clarity and coming at things from a different point of view and being able to figure things out when we fill that emotional bank. We'll be right back after these messages.
I'm passionate about helping people understand the system, because I came across so many people who say to me, I've sent out 100 resumes a week and I can't find a job and no one answers me, or I keep getting no's. And I realized that it really starts with that ATS system. And if people don't understand what the key words are and how important they are, they'll stay in that black hole for a very long time. And then they become depressed, and they feel like they can never have that job 10 years from now, because they can't even get a job today. And so even though I work really hard with my clients to align their career with their life and with themselves, it really starts with understanding how you get through the system.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest Sue back to the show. Welcome back. So during the commercial break, I have to admit I was slightly distracted. You happen to know there's like a little police activity going on around
Yes, yes.
I counted 9 cop cars, fire truck, and an ambulance, but now it's pretty much all cleared out. So yeah, I'm glad we're doing this because I probably would have walked over there like a looky-loo.
I love it.
I don't know.
would have too. I would have might have been outside.
Exactly. I saw the cops running, so I don't know. Because I live in a nice neighborhood, so hopefully everybody's okay, and it wasn't anything too serious. I mean, I guess they'd still be here if it was. But anyway, enough about that. As what I was getting at was I was distracted by that. But I am curious. I want to talk a little bit about this idea of clarity about, gaining the clarity so that we can make better choices, because you and I both know that you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that got you into it. And pretty much everybody should know that by now if they don't. But how important, because I don't care if you do any sort of personal development, if you do anything, clarity is the one word that comes up all of the time. But I know so many people who seem to be afraid of clarity. Like they're suddenly going to be locked into something forever because they chose. So could you speak into that a little bit about what your thoughts are on clarity and how important it is and how to get over the fear?
Clarity is probably number one for anybody who works with me too, but anybody out there. Because if you can understand how you show up out there, you have a better chance of getting what you want from your own passion and purpose, right? Instead of watching from the sidelines and wishing that you could be something else or do something else. I spent many years thinking I was one way, like I showed up one way. And in reality, after doing some work on myself and getting clarity, I learned I was the opposite. Because there are times that we think we focus so much on not doing something that we actually become that or do that because we're spending so much time doing it. And that's what I was doing. And I was like, that can't be right. Like I spent my whole life not being that. And when you get clarity, you get to look at it and say, how can I shift so that I can be what I want? And that comes from clarity of knowing why you're doing it, when you started it, how it became so prevalent, and how you don't know about
it. Yeah, I think it's, as we're talking, I was thinking too, it's this idea of looking at ourselves that I think scares a lot of people too. And it's okay. I mean, it's like being a child and you're in the dark and there's something really scary in the corner. All you have to do is turn on the light to realize it's the coat rack.
That's right. Yep. And people are afraid to look at their past.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking that it's horrific, or some of them are. Some, don't get me wrong. But for most of us, for the majority of people, it is what we created. And it's false truths. And when you start looking at it, you find the truth. Or a closer look at the truth. And when you find that, then you can start building your self-confidence and building the knowing that you don't have to worry, that you can do it, whatever it is that you want to do. You get to do it. right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people cry when they first look at the past, and I'm like, you can cry, but today, after today, we need to take that past and move forward with it, because it is who you are. You created it. Well, how can we make it part of our future, but in a positive light? So,
I like that.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. So, we've been sort of dancing around this idea of what you do and like coaching and all of that fun stuff. And I was able to play a commercial, that talked about resume building. And we've been talking about the pre-work. But what does it look like to actually work with you? Do you have online programs? Are you in person? How are you of service to others?
So you can work with me two ways. One is one-on-one coaching. And that is either you're working to understand yourself and get in the driver's seat, and then building out, where do you want to be? Because most of us look for jobs. They come to me because they want a new career or job, but they're only looking at jobs. I get them to look at the future. What is it that if 10 years you wanted, what would you want that to be? Like, you don't have it now. We don't have to get it today, but what would it look like? And then helping them back out to today to find the one that aligns with where they want to go. So they actually, when I put them in the front seat of the car, I like to say, you're literally driving to that 10-year goal. And then if you have the 10-year goal in your career, what does life look like? Because it will look different. For some people, they may become empty nesters and they're not even thinking about that. Like, what does that mean? Or they may be wanting their life to be traveling all over or having a family or whatever, and we're not thinking about how to align that with where you want to be and with who you are now. So it's working on all three pieces one-on-one to get them to go to understand themselves, to build out career and build out life. I like to call that the GPS for the future. And then you can do that over 6 months with me. And we find the job today, right, that aligns. And then, or you can do that and extend into executive coaching. There are jobs that are, I believe, are emotionally draining, like HR or those, they're draining. Yeah. People can drain us, right? Coaches, whatever. So I recommend that they extend into a year to be executive coaching so that they stay here where we've got them now and the people can't diminish that. Or you played interesting, you played that video, and that is the other way you can get me. Some people are not ready to go full circle into the three pieces of your GPS, but they need a job. And the systems are horrendous. They're actually designed to weed you out. They're not really designed to give you a job or to find you. They're to weed you out because there's so many people that apply. So if you're not speaking the same language as that job, you're going to get rejected. It's just you could be the best person for the job, but you're rejected, or other ways to get rejected. So that you did, the resume class, is a 4-week class that actually helps them understand the systems and customize resumes and interview and then negotiate.
So I love that there's something for everyone. Yeah. But real quick, I want to say something about your year-long program and for the audience. And that is, a lot of people don't think about it like this, but an entire year means 4 seasons. In a year, you are guaranteed to go through pretty much every emotion.
Yep.
Pretty much right. Everything. It's like a micro life in a year. And to be able to work with somebody like you for that amount of time really helps you through all of the seasons, literally.
That's right. And you can stay elevated through it all, because
You're
You know,
supported.
we could use wellness, right? In the
Mhm.
winter months, we tend to eat more and eat more things that aren't as healthy, right?
Mhm.
So we got to go through that depression and that darkness and all of that. So when you've elevated yourself, a lot of times they'll, as you said, they'll come back to me because they're like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't make it happen. And
Mhm.
that's because they needed to be elevated longer in order to, it's a practice, right? In
Mhm.
order to
Exactly.
practice how to stay throughout it. I will say that a lot of my clients work with me for a year, and extend even from there because they know they need to elevate all the time, right?
Mhm.
And if they want to be, let's say they want to be the VP of HR or talent, and they're in a recruitment role, in order to make the next move, they need to be elevated again,
Exactly.
right? And so
Exactly.
you're continually elevating yourself to go where you want to go. And if you don't have a place to drive to, you're back in the back seat of the car because you're in the comfort zone. You learn a new job and you get in the comfort zone.
Mhm.
If you don't have a place to drive to, you just stay in the comfort zone.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I'm going to say something that I think a lot of people can relate to, and to illustrate your point is before COVID hit, I was working in a gym and I loved my job, and I was the health and nutrition director, and I was really good at it. It was fun. I looked forward to it, and it was good. It paid my bills, but it was not phenomenal. I always wanted my own thing.
Mhm.
But then COVID hit and the gym closed, and now I was like, what am I going to do now? And it was actually such a blessing in disguise because I would have stayed at that job because it was comfortable. It was fun enough. It was good enough, and
Mhm.
it just was not, I would never have elevated as quickly had I been not been forced to, because it was comfortable. So a lot of people don't really realize that they're doing that. At least I see that. I don't know if you notice that too.
They are in their comfort. They won't leave because they're not 100% happy, but
No.
they won't leave because it's not bad. It's okay.
Yeah.
And or they're afraid, if I leave, can I make what I made before? And I
Mhm.
have a mortgage and I have kids tuition and I have this and I have that. And so they're fearful. Even if they're in like the culture from hell at the job, they will stay
Yeah.
because comfort is easier.
It is. Yeah. I mean, and comfort can just be the hell that you know.
And what they don't know is that hell that you are in,
Uh-huh.
that you
Exactly.
choose to stay in, actually causes other things. It costs us more than money. It costs us our health. It costs us our sanity, our mental, everything. It costs us a lot of things, sleep, anxiety, all of those things. And it's not money. It's
Yeah.
really never money. It's a lot bigger.
I like this idea, the GPS, though. I've never quite heard it put that way before. And if you don't have somewhere to go, like you said, where are you gonna go?
Yeah, I've had clients who are like, I can't think 10 years. Well, you need to. You need to
Mhm,
dream a little. You need to dream about what it could be. It might not be that in 10 years, but what if it's
mhm.
80% or 70% of
Yeah.
that, right? But if you don't do that, you're you're never challenged to drive to where you want to go. And I in truth, I call it the GPS because my when I was in corporate, I worked for a company that made a GPS black boxes. And so as I was teaching them about this car and where we're going and where we're driving, I'm like, this is your GPS. You are creating it. And I actually vision boards, people believe in those, but I make them hang it somewhere beautiful as a piece of art in their house because to remind them where they're going every day instead of like in your computer where we don't see it ever and we forget. where we
Yeah.
want to be.
Well, it's easy to get caught up in the daily details and lose sight of the big picture.
That's right.
It really is. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who's been guilty of that.
We all do it. And so if they're walking down into a room and that's where their GPS wall of fame is, so to speak, they're reminded. They don't
Mhm.
even have to go over there and read it, but they're reminded, oh, I am doing this job today because I want to do that. And I want my life to be this when I have that, right? That's all. It just is a click reminder so that we're always driving there.
Well, the thing that I like about what you do in particular is because it's not just about finding a job. Yeah, you can, I mean, let's be real. Being able to pay your bills is very important, not just to pay your bills, but for your mental health, your physical health, where you're going to live, all those things. That's a real thing. You and I are not trying to discount that.
No.
But we are also talking about the bigger picture.
Bigger picture.
You
you can get a job paying what you're making. You
Yeah.
can. It's out there. There's so many jobs. People don't even know. Maybe it's different than what you're currently doing, and you got to be a little creative, but you can do it. And once you do that and you build where you want to go, there's an excitement and a passion every day for going to work. So many people don't want to go to work. On Sunday night, they're dreading Monday. On Friday, they're so excited because they get to leave all day. I get to leave. I get to do this, right? And then Sunday rolls around. They're dreading it all because, look, it may be that they can't do better than the job that they have right now. But unless you look and unless you try, you never will know. You really won't know.
Yeah. And also, even just looking, if you feel stuck, looking really helps with that.
It does. Because it might say, hey, you're making top dollar working for one of the best companies. It reminds you, I've had people say I need to leave my company that they've been at for 30 years. And in the end, they don't leave because that wasn't it. It was finding passion and purpose somewhere in their life would be enough, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I love that. On that note, it is time for us to go to one more commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. And I said hello to everybody who's watching us live. Now I'm saying hello to all of you who are watching us on demand. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to talk a little bit more about the foundation and things that we could do to make life better and easier and find that passion. We'll be right back.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring Sue back to the show. Welcome back. So, we were talking about a lot of things, but I think that I just want to reiterate the idea, the point that you've got to be able to look at the barriers. You've got to be able to build that foundation before you can really excel and exceed wherever it is that you want to go, because I can't remember who said it, but wherever you go, there you are.
Yep. Yep.
So, for people that actually, I'm going to ask you a different question. I changed my mind. I'm going to ask you a question that I think is really important. And this has to do with the idea of dealing with that internal voice and that maybe is negative, or even how we speak to ourselves when we start noticing that we have said something negative. And side note real quick, the more you do it, the more you realize other things are sneaky negative, not just straight negative, but sneaky negative.
Yep.
But anyway, what I'm getting at, though, the question is, what kind of things do you do in order to, say, counteract that? Do you do things like affirmations, meditation? What kind of things would you recommend, or do you do yourself?
So you could do meditation, a calm app, something like that. You could go for a walk. A lot of times there's a psychological thing out there that says you can count to 21 really slow.
Mm-hmm.
I've had clients do that and they say it works. So you count really slow, 1, 2, 3. And by the time you get to 21, it's over. It's over. You've forgotten about it. So it is like a form of meditation, but you're just shifting, calming yourself. You can breathe. You could just take a few deep breaths if you found it. Or you can shift it. If it's a negative thought that says, my hair looks awful today, everyone's going to notice, blah, 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 something like that, you can shift it and say, my hair looks really good today. Right? Mm-hmm. You could shift the thought to more positive. Your hair is what it's going to be. I find out that every day, if it's humid, rainy, whatever it is what it's going to be. Right? Good ones, bad ones, that's it. Right? So I think it's just shifting your mind to something else that is short term. It doesn't have to be long. So 21 is like 21 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just short enough to stop the thought.
It's funny that you would say that about the hair. It made me think of me whenever I start to get obsessed about something, about the way I look or whatever, I remind myself that I am not the center of the universe. Nobody really notices.
That's right.
Nobody really does. I lost like 10 pounds and I'm a small person. And so only like one person besides my husband noticed. And they're like, how could nobody else notice? I said, because nobody's paying attention.
Nobody's paying attention. That's right. So I did the same thing. I lost 26 pounds and nobody notices. It's like they're not really paying attention to who you are or what.
They're all thinking about themselves and how their hair looks.
And they don't really care. They don't care.
Nobody really cares as much as we do.
That's right. So really, whatever you want to step into, just take one step. One little baby step. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, you mentioned also about like taking walks and things like that. And I work from home and it can get monotonous or, going from one task to the next and it just feels never ending. And that could be really draining for somebody. So what I've started doing is taking a little walk around the block in between things. It's not even 5 minutes, but it makes such a huge difference because it bookmarks what I'm doing.
That's right. And it gives you a different shift, a different perspective, a different view. Because I do the same thing. You're like this at your desk all the time and you're focused on do this, then I got to do this, then I got to do this, then I got to do this.
Yeah.
So stepping away like that, like if I just step away and would walk to the dock, let's say for the water, then I would come back and be refreshed. And like you said, it's 5 minutes.
Exactly. And water is great. People don't understand how important water is.
Yep.
We're made up mostly of it. So of course we need it.
Yep. That's right.
So what other things do you do in order to keep your focus on, I mean, yes, we have to do the day-to-day tasks, but the bigger picture or paying attention to the GPS. I know you mentioned having like a vision artwork as opposed to a vision board somewhere.
I have to frame it, develop it. They make it beautiful.
I like
what
that.
I do is, for me personally, I start my day meditating. Then I journal. Then I play Wordle. I do the Wordle of the day. And then I will start getting myself ready, have, my breakfast or whatever that is, and then start my work day. And that is all non-negotiable for me. I make my habits and I teach my clients to make them non-negotiable. So if my husband says, hey, do you want to go kayaking Saturday morning? My first question is what time? And the reason is I want to know what I need to do, what time I have to be ready, and what I need before that. For me, that's not negotiable, right? And then at night, I journal some more. And then I do a gratitude, 3 gratitudes for the day that help, because I believe that gratitude leads to courage and courage leads to action. And so if you can start small with some little gratitude, because there is something to be grateful for, I believe you can put yourself in action to go where you want to go.
I love that. And I love that you bookend the day. So there's something in the morning, there's something at night. Because a lot of people get stuck on this idea of, okay, I'm going to start the day, but they don't, they'll go to bed thinking about not finishing.
Everything. They don't. Like you fall asleep with all the negative stuff that's going in your mind. You need to shut off your phone, do something for you. And I end with gratitude only also because then it's positive. It's a positive way to fall asleep. And those things that I do in the morning and the night, I consider as part of filling my emotional bank. It's part of it. Right. So even if no matter what happens in between when I'm working, no matter what happens there, I've filled my bank. So it is never empty.
I like that idea too. Yeah, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So
you can't. And people do, though. They do. And they wonder why they're so tired, exhausted, have this anxiety.
And resentful.
Yep. And it's because they are not first, and they have to be first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's that oxygen mask idea. And I'm with you. So we are almost out of time. We've got about 2 minutes left. Are there any other thoughts that you'd love to share with the audience, or maybe a point that you'd love to reiterate?
I think I would like to reiterate the word action.
Mm,
So from today, either you're filling your emotional bank with one thing, maybe it's the gratitude, which I would say start with gratitude, because gratitude leads you to the, the courage and then leads you to action. And there is always something, even in the worst day, to be
hmm
grateful for. So if you even start there, you can start shifting the negative thoughts and you can start seeing as the world changes for you and everything that's around you that frustrates you is changing. Just start with one little thing, um, and put yourself in action, because if you're in the back seat, you're not in action. You're just sitting there.
Exactly. Life is happening to you.
That's right. That's right. And you need to take control again.
Exactly.
At some point, they had control.
Uh-huh. No, I hear that. I wanted to pop up your website one more time for those of you who have been watching and missed it in throughout the show. And here's where everybody can find the coaching that you offer and the programs that you offer, correct?
Yes, they can find everything about my how I got here. They
Yes.
can find about the programs. They can find me. They have links to my email or to set up a call with me, and we can talk about what it is that you need.
I love that. Amazing. Well, Sue, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute pleasure. You are so much fun. And the thing that I just have to say really quickly, the thing that I really love about what you do and how you show up in the world is, yes, you're going to help people with the right now, but you get people to see the bigger picture, help them to see their bigger picture so that they're not just focused on what's happening right in this particular moment in order to create something amazing for themselves in the future as well. So I just want to say thank you for that, because there's not a lot of people out there with that kind of vision. So
Mhm.
want to acknowledge you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, everyone, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back again very soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.